everyone, welcome to Psychiatra, a podcast by Student Council of School of Vedic Sciences under MIT-ADT University. I'm your host for today, Vanisha Jain. Today we have an amazing guest with us, Ms. Aishwarya Menon, a professor at School of Vedic Sciences at MIT-ADT. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in clinical psychology. She has also completed the UGC NET and she has over 6 years of experience previously having taught at Abasaheb Gadbare College and has also completed a clinical internship at the Chaitanya Institute for Mental Health. She teaches a wide range of subjects, including social psychology, abnormal psychology, personality theories, clinical assessment, and environmental studies. So, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm doing great.
So, let's start from the start. To begin with, I'd love to hear about your journey, what introduced you to the subject, and of course, around your time years back then, there was a lot of stigma and confusion around this subject. So, what encouraged you to pursue this subject?
So yes, when I decided to join psychology, similar to what it is right now, and even back then, and I think even it's going to persist henceforth, is there is definitely a stigma around psychology, and not just in terms of, I think sometimes it's mainly like parents and the older generation who is not sure about whether you should be picking psychology or no, but even sometimes internally you're kind of questioning, that, oh, is this the field for me, is this going to be money lucrative, and all of these kind of issues keep coming up. And I mean, those stereotypes or that idea is going to be there because psychology is quite abstract in the sense, right? And people are all curious. We are all psychologists in a certain way, but I think because of that, people undermine psychology. People think, oh, this is something that everyone just knows. Like layman people also know what psychology is. That everyone has a theory in their head. But I think now, even when you're studying psychology, you might understand that what we know as general this is very different than what you study, right? So, anyways, the thing is that I just wanted to do something that is for, you can say, the community in general, because initially my idea was to do veterinary, which was like animal doctor. I tried that, it didn't work out, but I was still like, I just want to do something that is like working with people, doing something that seems a little like helpful, doing something for society, community. That's what like my like frame of this was. And I didn't have a background in psychology, as in I didn't do it in 11th and 12th. I was just curious about it. And I liked biology, which has been helpful in psychology, definitely. So I thought, okay, why not try this? And I didn't have any like resistance from my parents or from family, and I think that really helps, to do that. And yeah, I think that curiosity really made me want to, like stick to psychology. Yeah,
I love your point about helping the community and the people.
yeah.
Also, I'd love to know what introduced you to the subject.
I mean, I think we all just get curious, right? Like we go through experiences, we go through personal experiences, and we always want to find an answer. And I think that's what pushes a lot of people. We all deal with different relationships in our life, family relationships, friendships, and all of that. And you always go through something that makes you want to, it makes you wonder that, okay, why do people act this way? Why am I acting this way? Or how do I get people to act differently? That's usually the motivation that we have, that, okay, how do I see this? And yeah, that's what I think pushed me to it. And of course, like, you kind of read through it in social media, you kind of see it through movies and all of that. So I think that's what like kind of made me very, very curious. It seemed very interesting to me, like that. So it was a very broad thing. It was not like a one definitive movement. I didn't have like, one insight kind of this, but it was just sort of like a gradual thing that made me develop that interest.
That's nice. So over the years, you've transitioned from clinical psychologist to a teacher. What motivated the shift?
Like it wasn't clinical psychologist. I was doing clinical psychology
Yeah.
as a degree, yeah, I did initially want to become a clinical psychologist, but I think I felt a little unprepared, because clinical psychology is all about dealing with very sensitive cases, so like with abnormal psychology and all of that. And I really enjoyed the subject, but I didn't feel prepared to be in the field.
Oh.
So it was actually my father who kind of like gave me a nudge towards teaching. My dad is also a teacher, actually, a school teacher though, and he was also my teacher. So I think I always had something around teaching. But I was very resistant against it. So even in my masters, I didn't want to get into teaching. But my dad was like, give the NET exam.
Yeah.
That's the exam that you need to do for teaching. And I was like, okay, fine, let me just give it. For the sake of satisfying my parents' wishes, I just did it. And I cracked it, and I was like, okay, let me give this a try. I can come back to clinical psychology if I have to, right? It's not, you can shift your this if you want to. But then once I started doing it, I was like, oh, I think I like it. I like doing what this is. And I think it's sort of like a happy accident, if you can call it that. But yeah, that's what it was. Like, I think it just worked out well, I think. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So over the years, is there a motto or a philosophy that you kind of follow for teaching?
For teaching, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I still think I'm very new to this field. I think 6 years is still very like young age. I don't think I've spent that much time in teaching to be able to give like a motto. But what I personally think is what I follow, what I try to kind of do is I try to put myself in like the student's place. I think as a teacher, you always have to be a student. Because I can't be like, okay, this is what I have learned and this is all there is that I can teach. I think even every time before a lecture also, I try and read up like what is actually new. What is it that possibly the students can relate to? Because, and I think you need curiosity. I think beyond anything else, even subject knowledge is of course important, but beyond that you need curiosity and you need passion for the subject. I think especially for psychology, without passion for the subject, it becomes very difficult to like continue with. Yeah, exactly, right? Even when you're studying it as well. And that's the same thing as a teacher. I just get very curious about the subject. I try to look at it, how it applies. I think for me, I look at everything in the lens of psychology. I can't get rid of it, especially social psychology, right? Yeah. So I can see that with the students as well. I can tell who is thinking beyond what is being taught.
In daily life, we'll apply these concepts and then we'll say, oh, we studied this, and then somebody talks about it, that applies to it.
And that's what teachers do as well. Like we are also very, like we get very interested in, this applies, and you're like, oh, I can use this example in class. It works the same way. So I think that is the most important thing, I think, for me as well, at least for me. Yeah.
So for students who might want to follow a similar path, from education to academia, like you did, what kind of qualifications do they need to do? What all do they need to study? The subjects varying.
Okay, so subjects, as in you have a pathway to this. I mean, this is fixed. It's not something by choice. You can do it. Is you have to do your masters and you have to clear the NET exam. At least so far that's the system. You have to clear your NET exam and you get like the qualification for it. But I think a lot of people probably think, you know what, I don't know if I will be a good teacher or whether I will do that. And I had those same doubts as well. But I think it's also what I sometimes tell in the class as well, that you end up learning on the job. Of course, that is a big risk to take. But that is the thing. You need to, I mean, of course, you need to have your academic knowledge. You do need to know your theories well. You also need to be able to, be open enough that if, let's say, you don't know some concept as a faculty or as a teacher, that you are okay with, comfortable to tell that I don't know this, but I'm going to go back and look and come and tell you. I think that openness needs to be there, so that you are ready to take in more information. And you need to be a student, like as a faculty you need to know how it is to, I mean, you need to continuously keep learning, and that is something that you need to be prepared for if students are interested in doing this. And of course, for your net exam, one suggestion if I have to give is, give it when you're studying. It's easier, and you're allowed to give it when you're in your masters, right? So I usually push students saying that do it at this point, because all of the content that is there, it's fresh in your mind when you're studying it. Once you leave the subject and you stop being a student, then everything, like you'll be very out of touch with a lot of concepts.
And you've got to start from
exactly, yeah. And that's this. So if you have this plan, if you even have some inkling of it, just give the exam. That's what I would say. If I had that resistance, or like I was not interested and I didn't give it, I don't think I would be here today. So
but you're an amazing teacher at that.
Thank you.
So you've had the experience of teaching before and after the introduction of NEP, National Education Policy 2020.
Yeah.
So how has this shift of this perspective influenced the classroom environment? In the sense, like, are students more engaged now, or do the new methods bring more confusion in them?
So when you are talking about the National Education Policy, I don't think it changes too much in the classroom. Maybe it changes a lot in the students' experience, because now they are exposed to multidisciplinary this. They might have actually more varied perspectives, about things. Of course, being a new system, it does make things a little bit maybe confusing. Maybe everyone's like, okay, what does this mean? What's going to mean after 4 years? And that is something that we are also not very sure about. But I think it is definitely going to have a lot of benefit for students as well. And I think, it's opened up avenues, with multidisciplinary minor education or open electives. They're doing things that, they probably would not have thought of doing if it was just a psychology degree, right? So I think I think in general, like even if you are, just having more information about different things, I think it increases creativity. I think it creates an openness to studying. Also, varied perspectives you get. You also get a chance to interact with people from different fields, right? So I think it can be very useful. Of course, I acknowledge that there could be a little bit of like a confusion, or a little bit like, there's a pressure. Of course, there's definitely pressure, and a little bit of like, okay, what's going to happen? But I think that also means that there is a lot more scope now. There's so many avenues that we can like focus on. So I think it's probably going to be a good thing.
The next.
Yeah.
Over your teaching career, have you observed any significant changes on how educators basically approach learning styles? Like basically, if you are in a classroom and you see a varied bunch of students, do you see what learning styles will be beneficial for them? Do you see other teachers experiencing it?
Okay, so when you talk about learning styles, you're saying that when students have different approaches, whether we want to cater to that, or whether that's going to be a limitation for them. Now, I think there is a mixed thing with learning styles, right? Like, of course, we see different learning styles in the classroom. We see different approaches, even the way they pick up things, the way they understand things. There's definitely different approaches. And of course, we are also trained to cater to different approaches. But at the same time, what we try and encourage is, even if a student has a particular learning style, so let's say visual learning or kinesthetic learning or whichever, of course we try and accommodate for that. But what happens is that like maybe in your masters, maybe in like real life, in your professional life, you will have to engage in multiple avenues of work, right? So we don't want them to lose touch with different ways of learning, right? And I think we try and encourage students to, of course, find what works for them and use that for their own benefit. But at the same time, you need to practice different avenues of learning, because it's sort of like, you kind of train yourself in a certain way, right? So if you stay limited, what happens is that you get very used to that and very comfortable with that.
That makes sense.
And in the real world, you might not actually get the chance to work in a particular way, right? You will have to expand yourself, and I think that training is necessary as a student itself. Like, you train that right now, you feel more comfortable when you are outside in the professional world. That's like my personal opinion. That's what I think. Yeah,
that made a lot of sense actually. So one thing students appreciate about you, I do, a whole class does, is that you use real life examples into theories, and that makes it very easy to understand the concepts. So how do you stay updated and ensure that all of these theories are fresh in your mind?
So I think it works well for me because I teach a subject like social psychology, which has a lot of examples, right? So and of course, I think I've also said this in class, that learning through examples makes you really understand what is going on, right? So I think because I keep saying that, I also have to practice it, by using examples. Now, about being up to date, I don't personally believe I'm very up to date with this, but I think it is. Thank you. But there is scope for more. But the point is that, like I said, I try and put myself in the student's position, right? So, of course, there is like a generation gap and all of that can come. But I try and understand, okay, what might it be to sit there, right, and take this in. So, I get it, sometimes theories can feel like a lot, right? And the only way you can kind of connect is through these examples, and it also kind of gets the students to connect with the subject, and you want the students to feel curious, to feel connected to the subject. So and about being up to date, I just try, like I said, right, I look at everything with that lens. It's very hard for me to not look at it with the lens. So so I just kind of approach the world with this lens. So these examples come to me, automatically. They're like, oh, okay, this works or this works. So that's why I just try and bring that in. And I also, by the way, a lot of my examples come from students. Like a previous batch will bring up something, and I'll be like, oh, I can use this next time, So I think students bring in amazing examples, sometimes things that I've never thought about before. So you learn from that, you pick up on that. So there are all of these ways to do that.
So given the various roles that you juggle between teacher and ex-faculty member of the Psych Club, mentorship that you give to students, and your own personal responsibilities, I'm sure that you get burnt out or have stress about things. How do you manage it?
So I think the major thing is that people should not be so worried about reaching out for help, because I think a lot of sometimes you need a third perspective. You need a second and third perspective that can tell you okay, you know what, maybe it is not so stressful as it is. So I think working together as a team, working with, openly able to communicate with these things, and also sort of, I would say, maybe a little bit of compartmentalization works, being able to keep certain things away. Sometimes you kind of have to do that, because that's the only way maybe you can, proceed with this. And that is what you might have to do sometimes for dealing with stress.
It's easy to say that we have to communicate out, but I think it's very difficult on a personal level for somebody.
Yes.
For some people, they face difficulties on who to reach out.
Correct.
Or what to share in front of people. Do you have any advice on that?
See, of course, that is a very real problem, right? Like, people get anxious, people get shy, people also start questioning themselves.
Exactly.
There is a lot of inherent shame and guilt people have, to reach out to other people. But I think if you remind yourself that everyone is struggling in their own way, right? And there is no shame or guilt in asking for help. Usually what we think, it's like the spotlight effect, as we say, right? We believe that things are more embarrassing for us, or what will people think. But most often than not, they are not going to judge you for struggling. In fact, they might feel even better that, not in a sadist way, but like, they might feel better that you are reaching out for help, because it makes them also feel valued, right? And they also are struggling, right? So everyone is on the same page, right? So we are social animals in the end. We need other people. We can't just sit and try and deal with things by themselves. So I think it's worth the try. Yeah, it's worth it. Yeah.
I'd love to start from the question that we left off. Would you have any advice for the students who are appearing for any competitive exams or so?
Yes, I think now there are even more competitive exams. Even if you're going abroad, there is,
Yeah.
and for your higher studies also, there are a lot of this. Your GATE, your what do you call it? Like the exam for your masters. All of this is going to come up, and even your net exam and such. I think that I don't have any particular advice to give because it's very competitive
Yeah.
now. I think students need to not be disheartened if it doesn't work out in the first go. You'll always have a pathway with psychology.
Obviously.
If one thing doesn't work out, something else will. But of course, it's easy for me to say that. But regardless, I think what you need to do is be prepared with all of your concepts, be very very clear, use your strategies. I would say that the best strategy to learn is actually to teach other people, and
Yeah.
also just keep testing yourself. I think that really worked when I gave my net exam. Is constantly testing myself, because it forces you to kind of like recap, like, okay, what do I know, what do I know. So I that is my what do you call it, like, best suggestion that I can give is do a lot of tests, do a lot of mock tests, do a lot of practice tests, and yeah, make your flashcards, and also try and explain the concepts to other
Yeah.
people. So then that will help
That
you this.
helps.
Because as a teacher, I mean, I know that I study best when I teach the students. The concepts have really been ingrained in me now. So yeah, I think that's what I can say.
So, ending that on a wonderful note, it has been a wonderful session with you.
Thank you. I'm glad that I could do this. Yeah.
It was lovely talking with you.
Same here.
So, I hope that to anybody who watches this, this was an inspiration. I'm sure. I hope that you've learned a lot of new things, I suppose. So, thank you. Signing back from MIT SVS Student Council.
Thank you.
Bye.